Hi guys, can you all hear me okay? Good, good. My name's Juliette Denny, and I'm the Managing Director of a company called Growth Engineering. And I'm here to talk to you about zombies. No, not zombies. I'm here to talk to you about gamification and more generally, engagement. If you see any of our masked heroes around the show today, we're on 04. So please come and visit us, get some badges, and talk to the crew. So again, thanks very much for joining us. Today, I'm going to be talking about, this is the rough agenda. We're going to be talking a bit about the engagement problem, how much engagement costs us, what engagement means. We're going to talk a little bit about traditional LMSs and some of the problems with traditional LMSs. We're going to be introducing gamification. And I'm going to be spending a little bit of time going into some of the elements of gamification, because obviously everyone talks a lot about gamification, and I just want to give a bit more flavor in terms of the different mechanics that we can use. We're then going to talk about where gamification is used, to give some context to the applications it's already on. And then finally, we're just going to go into some case studies. If you've got some questions, hopefully we'll have time at the end of the session. So without further ado, what is the biggest challenge, the biggest problem with learning in the workforce? I'm sure there are many, but we at Growth Engineering believe very firmly that the biggest problem with learning is engagement. Without engagement, we don't change behavior. We might be able to send out compliance courses, we might be able to conduct training sessions, but these training sessions are not converting that knowledge into behavior. And if we're not changing behavior, we're not making a measurable difference to our audience, okay? Engagement is absolutely critical to what we do. There was a recent study on compliance e-learning by a company called SAI Global, who are the largest compliance training organization in the world, and they found that 97% of all of their compliance training made little or no impact on behavior, okay? So of course this is a bit of an issue. We're all spending a lot of money on training, we're all spending a lot of money on learning technology, but it's not making a measurable difference on our workforce. The other issue we've got is that training is part of our internal marketing brand. And as we know, we're getting a new generation of workers coming through, and they're demanding to have a different relationship with our organization than more mature generations. They want to be emotionally engaged working for you, okay? So this means that when you're sending out training, this is your internal marketing. This is the way your organization thinks and feels about that individual. They are trying to make a connection with you. And if you are not making that connection through your training, through your development programs, then that love is being lost, right? That love is being lost, and that talent will walk out the door, okay? Engagement is not only important in terms of, creating that longevity of staff, building that reputation, underpinning the core knowledge within your organization. The reason you really want to get to engagement is it costs you money, right? So without an engaged workforce, you will suffer from sickness, more sick days, and ultimately less profitability. So there's a really, really good reason why you need to get behind the idea of focusing on engagement. What's worse with the engagement is that in many organizations, they suffer from poor engagement. But when it comes to new technology and engagement, unfortunately, it's even worse. How many of you in the audience have worked for companies or been involved in technology rollouts that have failed? Lots of you, right? The reality is, we live in a world where we're all trying new types of technology, right? Whatever it is, we're trying it, and then what happens? We give up because we're not engaged. And the reality is all the promises, all of those productivity gains that we've been promised, all of that data that we've been told that we're going to be able to look at, all of that understanding, that customer insight is all gone. Why? Because nobody is going on and using the technology. So combine the traditional engagement problem with the fact that you've got technology, and unfortunately we have a very, very high instance, and those of you who have had LMS installations or of that nature will know that there is a very, very high failure rate for these learning technology platforms. And why wouldn't there be? Let's face it, most of the LMSs out there look like that. That's a problem, right? Because when you look at your phones now, when you open your apps, how many of your apps, how many of the apps you use every single day, Facebook, YouTube, how many of them look like that? So why do we do it to our workforce? Why do we do it? Why do we think it is okay for us personally never to make a choice like this? Yet, we're quite happy to inflict this kind of technology on our workforce when we're trying to get them engaged. Hence, gamification. Here we come. Right, what do we mean by gamification? Gamification is not Angry Birds, right? We're not changing everything into a game. What we're trying to do with gamification is we are trying to use the mechanics that surround a game, and we're trying to put that on things that people maybe don't want to do, like health and safety training, first aid training, etc., etc. So the purpose of gamification is to put a nice shiny facade on things that we may not gravitate towards naturally, like trying new pieces of technology, like doing health and safety training, like doing things that are compliance, okay? It is not Angry Birds. We are not, changing everything into a game. We're using common gaming mechanics that we all use, and every single generation use, and we're wrapping those around either a piece of content or a learning platform. And that's what gamification is. Now, we get a lot of kickback. Oh, yeah, gamification, it's only for the young. But it's not. It's not for the young at all. How many of you play Noughts and Crosses? How many of you play, Snakes and Ladders? How many of you play Sudoku? How many of you play... These are all games, right? And these are all mechanics we can use to engage, delight, excite, revolutionize what we are giving out to our learners, okay? So however old you are, and wherever you come from, the reality is people like to play games, whether it's on their own, whether it's collaboratively, they like to play games. So how does gamification work? Very, very simply, if you like something, you're more likely to do it, right? Very, very simply. If you enjoy the experience, your brain pathways are open. You start releasing dopamine, and because you're releasing dopamine, you learn faster and you learn for longer, okay? So what we're trying to do is we're trying to put those happy thoughts into your brain. You're so enjoying the journey, you just can't wait to carry on learning. And that's really the way gamification works. Now, when people talk about gamification, obviously it's been a buzzword, and everyone's like, oh yeah, we do gamification, we do gamification. Now, everyone does do gamification. However, there are many different ways to really create a proper gamified strategy that you need to be very, very well aware of. Now, I'm going to run through some of these quickly. First of all is gamification in and around those people that find socializing important. So these can be gamifying things like relationship, experts in social status, social discovery. They can be things like gamification for free-spirited individuals. So this could be unlockable content, so playing hide and seek on the platform. It can be things like achievers, so ideal for typical sales environment with levels, quests and rewards. But it can also be driven by purpose, so something a little bit more about social, about sharing, about being collaborative. So when you're thinking about your gamification strategy, a good gamification strategy is not just attaching badges to everything. You need to think about your gamification strategy. You need to start off looking at things that are going to encourage people to be on the platform for longer, to give them encouragement, to delight them and excite them. And then you need to deploy different types of strategies on the platform so that you've got different types of gamification that appeals to different types of learners, yeah? So this is really critical. It's not a one-size-fits-all. You need to think about gamification in the sphere of your brand, in the sphere of what your company is trying to do and where it's trying to go to. There's not a one-size-fits-all. The reality is with gamification is it's already a very, very big influence in the market. You've probably seen it coming to learning technology shows. You know, more and more organizations around that are deploying gamification. The reality is that 70% of, you know, Global 2000 companies already have some sort of gamified platform. And the applications are all over the place. More typically, we see gamification in the area of consumer applications. So there is no doubt that all of you have a gamified experience. So customer loyalty, you've got a customer card, that's gamified. Rewards, you might have a reward center, Fitbits, you know, speed cameras, all of these types of things are typically very gamified. And what we're seeing is those business consumer applications have got gamification in from the get-go. It's only business-to-business applications that are taking a bit longer to come through. Because the reality is that those companies that do offer business-to-consumer applications don't have the opportunity to teach people how to get on board with their applications. So it's only now that B2B applications are coming in and using gamification more. In the B2C world, gamification is not really thought of as a thing, as certainly nothing new. It is the fact on the ground. It is what you have to have in place in order to get engagement on the particular application. So in terms of the ones that you will be most common with, LinkedIn, yeah? LinkedIn is obviously a gamified app. You can see your profile, the higher, you know, the more you do on LinkedIn, the more social status you gain, the more complete your social profile is. You've all seen it before, and it does work. So the bottom line with gamification is one of the reasons we want to deploy it is because, quite frankly, it works. The stats are out there, it just does work. When we are doing something we like, we are more likely to be advocates of it. We're more likely to take that knowledge, that experience, and talk to other people about it. But most importantly, we're more likely to be able to retain the knowledge and retain it for longer. So this is what our gamified platform looks like. It's not many screenshots, but you can see roughly what we're trying to do here with the learning platform. What we're trying to do is say, you know, we're trying to make it into an area where people would go naturally. So when you look at it, it looks very like Facebook. It's got a bit of a four-squared front end, so you can see your status, you can see how many badges, you can go badge hunting, you can see where you are on the leaderboard, and it looks very like, and underneath you've got the social element. Gamification works really well with social. Gamification on its own, like anything, is a little bit lonely. You wouldn't necessarily want to play a game on your own. After a while it gets a bit boring. You want to do it socially. So this is really where social comes into the gamified experience. So in terms of our success with gamification, we started our journey with gamification and the product about 4 years ago now. And since we've seen that, we've seen a massive increase in the number of traffic and the number of kind of the overall quality of engagement on our client sites. So it really is, it's just a great way to go in terms of getting engagement. The other thing is that you find, this is a case study of ours with game retail, that the users really love it. And the key thing is, if you are an L&D head, if you are in charge of organizational development, one of the critical things is because this is a direct communication from the organization to those individuals, it's absolutely critical that those individuals receiving the learning love it. Not that they don't mind it, right? But that they absolutely love it, that they are advocates of that learning, that they are saying, I've had this experience, I absolutely loved it, and I would recommend it to you. Because by getting that learning to go viral, by getting that learning to be shared, that is when behavior changes. So the other thing is obviously critical, is there's no point having a great gamified platform if you don't have great gamified content. So the other thing is that you want to take into account is the learning journey. When you're sending out content, it's critical that that content also has a story and a theme and a gamified element to it. There's no point having a platform without the content. So hence why we went on the journey of actually building out Genie. So what you've got with Genie is the ability to be able to upload videos, create quizzes, all of the things that you would do in a standard authoring tool, but you're doing them within a gamified environment. So there's lots of these different games coming through. You select your game, create the learning, and of course it's SCORM compliant. You can upload it to your LMS. But this is a critical part, because when people are emotionally engaged in the story of your LMS, in whatever you might, theme your LMS. Our internal LMS, for example, is called G-Spot, yeah? Because everyone wants to go to the G-Spot, right? Everything in and around that, anything in and around that internal brand needs to be consistent. So everything that we do is not in and around the G-Spot, but it is in and around, that theme of fun, of delight, of excitement, of a bit cheeky, right? So you need to make sure that everything that you do is consistent with it. And that's, again, why these content things are very important. So just one note on the future. Gamification has been around for a long time, okay? Those of you that have done anything in sales will know that leaderboards, badges, points and prizes have been around for longer than any of us have been around. It's not new. Playing games is not new. It's just the learning development industry suddenly decided that it was new. It's not new. So where do we think gamification is going? We solidly believe that this time, in 2 years or 5 years, we won't be having conversations in and around gamification, because everybody out there will have an element of gamification, an element of gamification that means something to them, to their brand, to their purpose, to their vision. One size doesn't fit all. Not all of you are going to think that superheroes and capes are necessarily going to work for you and your organization. They do for us, yeah? But gamification as something new will cease to exist as far as we're concerned, because it is a great way of climbing that engagement mountain and getting people on board, getting them to have a sense of purpose with regards to their own learning and development. So that's it from me, folks. Thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it. And please do come around and visit us on the stand.